Hello and welcome to Out of the Fog. I'm Karen Hager. Each week at this time, we gather for spiritual conversation with enlightening guests, and I'm glad you're here. Remember to follow along at Fog City Psychic on Instagram and Facebook just to keep up with my shenanigans. And you already know probably that we're on our new home on Anchor and Spotify as our podcast hosts. I found this cool little feature on our page, which is anchor.fm/out of the fog. If you go to that page, there's a little plus sign in a button that says message. And if you click that, you can leave me a voice message. I think that message is limited to 60 seconds. Oh, I'd love it. If you've got a second, would you go and try that? I love hearing your feedback. And I'm putting together another listener mailbag episode. The one we did in December was really fun and popular. I'm going to do another one. So maybe you've got a question you'd like me to answer in that episode. Leave me a voice message, anchor.fm/out of the fog, and then click the little plus sign in the button that says message. Now, if you're feeling on the edge of burnout, or maybe you're over the edge, already burned out, if you brag about being a workaholic or how little sleep you need to get by, if you are finding yourself so focused on getting things done that you completely forgot the part where you're supposed to enjoy the journey, then Lillian So, who's my guest today, has got a message for you. She believes that when we understand the 5 layers of the body, we can change every aspect of our life and we can start seeing and feeling transformation in a short amount of time. Are you ready to meet her? Lillian So is an integrator and facilitator of transformation. She's got more than 20 years of industry experience in creating psychological safety, group facilitation, and compassionate communication. The founder of SOfit SF Inc., Lillian is a certified personal trainer, group fitness instructor, yoga educator and therapist, nonviolent communication facilitator, life coach, integrative healer, and mystic. Her signature fitness and yoga programs have helped people change their relationship with their bodies through intentional movement, music, and community. And her coaching programs, which attract an international audience, have helped people transform every aspect of their lives through the 5 pillars of the So method. That's biology, programming, inner compass, communication, and manifesting. Lillian's new book is So Empowered. Discover the 5 layers of the body to take control of your life. Lillian, welcome to Out of the Fog.
Thank you so much for having me, Karen. I have to say, you have a made for radio voice. It was so soothing. I was like, go on, go on.
Tell me more about me. Tell me more. Read my bio again. Do it. There was somebody, this is a long time ago, and it was when I was in San Francisco. There's somebody who was on the radio who used to say that he had the voice of a prince and the body of a DJ. And so I'm glad you hear my radio ready voice. I was thinking as I was looking at the book and getting ready for this interview, I was finding myself kind of joking to myself about the 5 layers of my body, like how there'd be the guacamole layer and the self-loathing layer and the good intentions layer. And as I found myself thinking that, it made me wonder, why are we so mean to ourselves about all this? What is it that sparks that disconnect from the body? And how does that affect our wellness overall?
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, first of all, I love that. I don't think I've actually heard anyone joke about the layers of their body in that way, which is actually surprising to me because I have to say my clients in community, they are hilarious. I can't even give them an inch of anything because they'll just, run with it and it'll just be, a string of jokes and I have to like get them refocused, like, all right, enough, and it like becomes a whole thing. So that's hilarious. I can't believe my clients haven't already run with that one before. But, to go back to your story of what I'm really hearing, what I heard you ask me was, how do we end up getting to this place where we are so hard on ourselves and we lose this compassion for ourselves, which then ultimately disconnects us from ourselves and then leaves us burned out and feeling kind of lost and so forth. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I mean, where do I even begin with that? I think the easiest way, the easiest place to start is really that from the time that we're very, very little, we we learn how to survive, we learn how to fit in, we learn what to do and what not to do so that we don't get in trouble, so that we don't get rejected, so that we don't get hurt, so that we don't get punished, and so forth. We learn how to make our parents happy, we learn how to make our friends like us, and so forth. And throughout that journey, we stop listening to ourselves. We stop taking care of ourselves. We stop really putting ourselves first. And we get so externally focused, right, on survival, fitting in, achievement, and then achievements and accolades and all that stuff is all built into that, right? Because the more I achieve, the more I'll be liked, the more I do the good thing, the more that I'll get praised. And we're ultimately just trying to, avoid a sense of failure or rejection and pain. But through that process, we end up losing that connection to us, right? Like, what do I need? What does my body need? How does my energy feel? What's going to make me happy? What's going to affect my mood, my energy? And, throughout that process, we end up also just focusing on where we dropped the ball. We focus on how we didn't do the thing that we should have done to win, get there faster, to, accomplish whatever it is. And, along that journey, not only do we end up kind of being hard on ourselves and criticizing ourselves and whatnot, but then that's where the disconnect really happens, right? Because everything is coming from, dare I say, like the wrong place, right? And I say that in air quotes, versus, coming from a place that is self-focused and self-loving first. And I think for many of us, that almost seems like wrong. That seems wrong. It's like, oh, to be self-focused, but isn't that selfish?
Right.
Isn't that narcissistic? Isn't that wrong? Like, I've been told to think about other people first. I've been told to, put myself last. I've been told to be humble and so forth. And so I think it just gets very, very confusing, which leads us down to all this disconnect all around. That was kind of a big, long-winded answer, but I hope that all made sense.
Well, it's beautiful because we're in a time where there's so much division and so much shouting and so much, it almost feels like we get manipulated to places of disconnect. It seems especially powerful that we look for tools and ways and knowledge and actions that bring us deeper into connection. And as I understand your work, this idea about discovering the 5 layers of our body and really feeling into them, allowing ourselves to be present with all of ourselves, it feels especially important now.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we're in this age of information overload. I mean, we've been, right? But between the internet and social media and information overload and all of this division, and there's like so much constant crises in the world, I feel like we get pulled in so many directions from all the things that we need to keep up with, to have a successful life, and then all the ways that we're being pulled, with all the crises of the world and then all the distractions. It's just like, oh my God, it's just so, I mean, I understand why it's so hard for us to stay connected. It's like everything around us is designed to pull us away from our own center, absolutely.
So what are the 5 layers of the body, and how does understanding this help shift our perspective?
Yeah. So first of all, the 5 layers of the body is actually taught to us in very, very old um, sciences of and philosophy of yoga. And so yoga as a science, as a philosophy, as a system teaches us that in order for us to truly feel wholeness, enlightenment, connection to universe, God, whatever you want to call it, that we have to integrate and balance all 5 of the layers of our body. And in Sanskrit, they're called koshas. So these koshas translate to sheaths or layers of the body. And what yoga teaches us is take care of all of your koshas, all of your layers. You are more than just this physical meat suit of just skin and bones and organs, right? You are also an energetic body, an emotional mental body, a wisdom spiritual body. And you also have a bliss center. And when you take care of yourself in this holistic manner, because you are made up all of those things, because you are a multi-layered, multifaceted human being, that is when you can feel so much more oneness. That's when you can feel that meaning, purpose, that fulfillment, that joy that we're all seeking after. It's actually quite simple. But once again, going back to where we started, we start chasing all of these other things that we think are going to bring us wholeness. We get so distracted and disconnected, and then we just stop taking care of ourselves. We stop being hard, we're hard on ourselves, and that's where it just all kind of falls apart.
I was interested to read that you feel that things show up in the physical body last, because we're used to thinking about pain or imbalance or dis-ease as a first level warning, but you're saying things build up and then show up in the physical body at the end.
Yes. So I actually also used to think that way. I started my career in fitness. And so I was very body focused, right? I was very aware of my body. I was very in tune to my body. And so for many, many years of my life and my career, I actually thought, oh, when I feel a pain, it's like the first indication that something needs to stop, pause. I need to reflect and think about what's going on. And to a certain degree, that's, very true, because, you feel pain and it does catch your attention and you're like, whoa, I feel something in my belly. Oh, like what's going on there? And so while that frame is definitely still helpful, what I've learned throughout my journey and the deeper work that I've done with my clients over, decade plus of doing this integrative work, I've really realized that it shows up in the physical body last. And so what that really means is by the time you have some kind of physical symptom, let's call it hair loss, sudden hair loss, or let's call it some kind of breakout in your skin, or some kind of psoriasis, or some kind of inflammation that's in your body. What I've learned is that that is an indication that something else has been going on for a long time, and it's finally now manifesting to the point where you cannot ignore it anymore. Now you can't ignore it anymore because now you're in pain. Now you can't ignore it anymore because the breakout is all over your face and you can't leave the house anymore. Now you can't ignore it anymore because your hair is falling out in the shower. And it's like, you're finally paying attention. It's like you've been running on empty for the last 6 months and you didn't do anything about it. And now it's finally catching up to hair loss. Now it's finally catching up to where your metabolism is shutting down, your metabolic health is shutting down, and you can't understand why you've put on 40 pounds in the last year when you've been the same size for the last 40 years of your life. And so this is the way that I teach my clients now, that, hey, by the time it shows up in your physical body, there's probably all kinds of other things that have been happening, at the other layers, in ways that you may not know, as well as the physical layer too. Like I said, I mean, if you have not been nourishing yourself properly for the last, 10 years of your life, it may eventually show up in the form of disease or illness and things like that. But also, if you haven't been letting yourself have fun or letting yourself play, letting yourself have a good time, if you deprive yourself of joy, for months on end, feeling like you have to suffer in order to obtain some kind of achievement, yeah, that's probably going to also show up, as some kind of ailment, down the line as well.
So, how do you start when someone comes to you and says, Lillian, my hair fell out and I gained 40 pounds in the last hour and a half? How do you start working with someone? And maybe how can you help listeners gain some insight into where do we start when we've got the physical manifestation, but we want to look deeper into these other layers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my first knee-jerk response would be just slow down, stop, slow down, and create space. Okay. You have to, you have to slow down. You have to take time off. You have to create the space so that you can actually start taking care of yourself, so that you can actually reflect on what the heck is going on, how you even got here in the first place. You just can't do that if you're still going 100 miles per hour. So first things first, we have to slow down and create the space. And this is really hard for a lot of people to do, right? Because we've all been so conditioned to do more, to go faster, that we're not doing enough, that somehow we're in this kind of race, with ourselves and everybody else, and that we're constantly running out of time. And so this in itself is a very, very hard thing for a lot of people to do. It's very hard for people to be like, oh, but I have so many things to do. Like, I can't slow down now. Like, how can I take time off? Like, I have deadlines to meet, and I have mouths to feed and whatnot. And so first things first, it's like you have to give yourself permission to slow down and create that space. And you can do that in various ways, right? Like, you literally start creating more space in the mornings, maybe an hour a day in the morning where you actually slow down to do a routine and do some meditation and cook yourself breakfast and things like that. Or you actually maybe take some time off and you stop overloading your calendar, or you stop double booking yourself on weekends, and you stop trying to do so much all the time, right? And so that's one of the first things that I have my clients do when they come and work with me, is like, you need to create space. You're doing too much. You're working all day, then right after work, then you're trying to line up dates, then you're trying to line up trips on weekends, and you're trying to do all these things, and you want to do all these activities, and it's just not sustainable. You can't do that. So you got to slow down and create space. That's kind of like a high level action item. And then from there, where do we put that focus now that we actually did create space? Well, I would say that the first thing you do when you create that space is you start taking care of your physical body, because that is the lowest hanging fruit. That's the easiest place to start. It may not be realistic for you right now to unpack all of your childhood traumas and journal 5 hours a day and do that kind of work. Let's say it's kind of like going from 0 to 60. It's like, oh my God, I have psoriasis. What's going on? I better go and journal in my journal about my childhood traumas for 3 hours a day. I mean, that's ridiculous. Like, don't do that. Right? It's like, take a baby step and just start by slowing down. You gotta give your nervous system a break, because all of that running around and overloading yourself, it makes your body go haywire. So create the space, slow down, and then just start with the basics, the very, very, very basics. And all of this is laid out in my book, in the physical body chapter. And it really starts with the most simplest things, like drink water as soon as you get out of bed, like make yourself breakfast, eat protein and fat at every meal. I cannot tell you how many people are so undernourished. They're not even eating the most basic things. Once again, there's so much information overload out there that there's a million different diets and there's all these things, and people get so confused, and they're like, oh my gosh, one day I hear bananas are bad for you, and then another day I hear that I should only eat a low fat first thing in the morning because of my liver and this and that, and then the next thing you know, I hear that I should only eat protein at night and no vegetables because then I might gain. It's just like, it's insane. So you got to push all of that aside and just start with the very, very bare bones basics, like move in your body regularly most days of the week. You sleep 7 to 8 hours a day, drink water, get sunlight in your eyes, eat protein and fat at every meal. Just get the very, very basics. And then once you start doing that, your baseline normalizes and you start to have a better foundation. You have a little bit more of a routine, and then you naturally, as a side effect, want to start tackling other things too. Next thing you know, you want to set more boundaries. You want to have more space for other things like self-reflection and healing work and things like that. So I think first things first, we just got to start with the very basics. I mean, most people don't even drink water every day. Like most people don't even eat breakfast, it's crazy. So I know that sounds so basic, but, and I think a lot of times, even my own clients will come to me and they'll be like, wait, that's it? Like, you just want me to start there? And it's like, yes. And I think so many of us, we want such complicated, complex solutions. And that's actually not how you get results. You just start with the basics and then you expand and scale from there, whether it's your personal healing, whether it's your career growth, business growth, whatever.
And I think sometimes we are looking for, especially if things have gone, we feel badly wrong. We're looking for a kind of a punishment or something that will be difficult or something that will, when honestly, I think one of the most difficult and most beautiful things we can do is to gently bring our attention back to ourselves. And so we ask for something complicated, so we feel like we're doing something when that's a symptom of the problem that we're having.
Exactly. Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. It's like all we have to do is just come back, come back home. Come back home. Your home is you. You are, they say things like, your body is your temple and this and that. And it's true. You just got to come back home.
I love it. You're listening to Out of the Fog, and I'm talking with Lillian So. Her new book is So Empowered. Discover the 5 layers of your body and take control of your life. You can find more information about Lillian and her work at meetlillianso.com. That's meet, LILLIANSO.com, meetlillianso.com. Lillian, one of the things I loved about the book is that in each section about the 5 layers, there are assessment tools to encourage us to look at what our relationship is with these layers. Because it's not like just here's the 5 layers. We have living, active relationships with all of these. Can you say a little bit about why that assessment is so important and why it's important for us to be kind of in conversation with those layers?
Yeah, absolutely. I think once again, so many of us, we don't even realize just how disconnected we are from ourselves. We don't realize how much we're actually not taking care of some of the most very, very basic things. So like I said, for example, even at the physical layer, right? So the physical body is the first layer. So I'll go layer by layer. In the physical body, I had a client last year. She came in to work with me, enrolled into my program and whatnot. And she's a total badass mom, right? Like she is a, mother of 3 children. She is a cardiac surgery OR room nurse, right? She's a high stress job, raising 3 children, and she's just amazing. And she's like, oh my God, Lillian. She's like, I had no idea that I don't even drink water until like mid-morning. She's like, I get up at like 6 a.m, get the kids ready, scramble, get everything ready, go to the hospital, do this and that. Sometimes I'll already have gone into a surgery and I would not have even had water yet. I'm like, that's insane. Like, that's crazy. It's like, you're literally like saving lives and raising the next generation. And you don't even drink water. Like, and we just laughed about it. It's like, isn't that crazy how much we do not even take care of those basic things? So these assessments in each chapter goes over basically like what are signs and symptoms that you are taking care of yourself, at the physical layer, and that you're not. And so, in the physical layer, there may be things like, you have brain fog, you are constantly underweight or overweight, or your weight is always constantly fluctuating, or, you have like mood irritability, like things like that. And so all these different signs and symptoms can help you really hold a mirror up to yourself ultimately and be like, oh my gosh, I guess I didn't really realize that my physical layer is this compromised, because if I had to rate myself on a scale of 1 through 10, I realized that I'm actually quite disconnected. Like I'm at like a 4. I don't want to be at a 4. I want to be like at least at an 8. I mean, nobody's perfect, so I can't expect a 10 right now, but gosh, I would hope that I would actually be more like a 7 or 8. But if I'm really going through these signs and symptoms inside this book, which are very, very basic things that are laid out, it's like, oh God, I'm kind of like at a 4. And so that already creates a lot of self-awareness which brings a lot of motivation to a person to be like, okay, like I'm rating myself at a 4, but also I'm learning through these action steps that if I could just do these basics, like drink water, eat breakfast, sleep 7 to 8 hours a day, I would right away go from a 4 to a 6, like within a week. And that's so empowering, right? Which is why the book is called So Empowered.
What about like with our energetic body and our mental emotional body? What are some of the things to look for that let us know that we may be disconnected or something might not be quite right?
Yeah. So the energetic body is the second layer of the body. And it's just like the title or just like the name of the layer goes, the energetic body. The first and telltale sign is that you're always fatigued. And I know that that sounds so basic, but I cannot tell you how many people come to me and they're like, I'm so burned out. I'm so burned out. I'm so tired all the time. No matter how much sleep I get, I never feel like I'm getting enough sleep. I feel like I could sleep 12, 15 hours a day. I, catch up on so much sleep over the weekend, but then next thing you know, I'm sleeping until 10, 11 o'clock, on Saturdays and Sundays. And I feel like my whole day is gone. And then I'm back, to the grind on Monday. And I don't know why, I'm trying all these supplements. Another thing, I've had many clients that come to me and they'll, it's funny because they're like these like grown adults with like, high stress jobs and whatnot. And they're like, oh my God, I drink like 6 to 10 cups of coffee a day. I'm like, 6 to 10 cups of coffee a day? Like, what? How is that even possible? And I have another client that's like, oh yeah, I drink Red Bull. I'm like, I'm sorry, you drink what? Like, you drink Red Bull? Like, that's crazy. I haven't had Red Bull since I was in college and I'm mixing it with vodka. Like, what? It's crazy. And so, some of these telltale signs are like that you need caffeine, tons of caffeine, and you're tired no matter what. And you're always feeling erratic and anxious. So like on one hand, you're constantly fatigued. It's like you're on both ends of the spectrum, right? Because a lot of my clients will say like, oh my God, I'm like so tired. So I need to drink all this coffee. But then I'm also like so anxious and always like, like so jumpy about like meeting deadlines and like meetings and this and that. And so it's like, you're just not feeling even keeled and grounded and balanced. The thing is, when your energetic body is in balance, you feel grounded. No matter what fire happens at work, you're like, okay, cool. Like there's a fire, like, all right, like you go into action mode, you go into crisis management mode, but you're not like flipping out and like freaking out and, rapid firing email people and then regretting it later because, your energy was all over the place. Yeah. So when your energetic body is balanced, you wake up feeling refreshed in the morning. You don't need 10 cups of coffee a day. And, you're not feeling super fatigued or feeling super anxious and irritable. You're actually very grounded and you feel very level-headed and you feel clear-headed and focused, versus up and down on that energetic roller coaster. So that's that's kind of how we can think about the energetic body. In the mental emotional body, simply put, those are your thoughts and feelings. And so when your emotional mental body is out of balance, right? You're constantly overthinking, you what if everything, oh, what if this and what if that? And you can't make a decision because you have to like overthink and analyze every situation. You're replaying conversations in your head all the time. You're you feel something and then you just automatically just start jumping to conclusions. Like you cannot separate your feelings from analyzation, right? So what I mean by that is a lot of clients will come to me and as soon as they feel anything, they just start to spiral, right? So like, let's say they feel some kind of sensation because their manager wrote them an email and said, hey, looks like we're missing a deliverable. Like, can we have a meeting for 3 o'clock later today? And rather than just being like, oh shoot, did I drop a ball? Okay, cool. Yeah. I'll see you at 3 and we'll figure it out then. Right. That would just be like a balanced, healthy mental, emotional body, for example. But instead, a lot of times my clients will come into me and it's like, let's say a manager messages them a message like that. And all of a sudden they just, they feel the fight, fight or flight. They feel the thing, and then they just start spiraling out, and they're like, oh my God, am I going to get fired? And then they start like over analyzing everything, and then they're just so not present. And then they start jumping to all these conclusions, and then they like, and then their body feels like they're out of control, and they feel like they're not in control of their feelings and their sensations, and they're just freaking out about what's going to happen. And that is a mental, emotional body out of whack. Otherwise, you would be able to take information as it is. You're able to understand what is true. You're able to know your feelings. Even if you do feel anxious, you can say like, oh, I recognize that I'm feeling anxious because my manager just sent me this email. But what I know is true is that, I did the best that I could. And I did not know that this was an expectation. So I'll have this conversation with them in the next couple hours when I jump on a meeting with them. Yeah. And that's fine. Right. And then you're not like flipping out and doing backflips with creating all these stories and, going 5 different directions and like, oh my God, it's just so exhausting, which then obviously leaves your mental, emotional body just completely fried. And then that's kind of how it's like so disconnected. Right.
Right.
So that's mental, emotional body.
I'd love to look, I know we only have a couple minutes left together, but I'd love to look quickly at the wisdom spiritual and the bliss body, just to give the listeners an idea of some ways they can assess their wellness there.
Yeah, absolutely. So your wisdom spiritual body is the part of you that just knows. Okay. It's the deep knowing that is in your body. We all have it. You can call it your wisdom. You can call it your intuition. This is the deep knowing that you have that is not necessarily like learned in a textbook, right? We're not talking about the knowledge. We're not talking about knowledge. We're talking about knowing, which are 2 different things. And knowing is the part of you that like walks into the room when you're looking for a brand new house and you've looked at 20 different listings and you walk into that one house finally on a random Sunday afternoon and you go, oh my God, this is it. I just know it. I just know that this is it. Or when, we were talking before we went, when we had this conversation and, you knew that there was a time when you were like, I just know that it's time for us to head back east. Or I know it. I just know that now is the time for us to go on an adventure and move out to California or whatever. Like you just know. That is your wisdom spiritual body. It's the part of you that knows how to make decisions without all the information. It's the part of you that just trusts that everything is going to be okay, even when the world is falling apart. And when our wisdom spiritual body is balanced, harmonized, and we're connected, we have that strong sense of faith and trust in ourselves. And we're able to listen to our gut and follow our intuition and know that our intuition is always leading us down the path that is most conducive to our highest good. And when that is out of balance, right, we question ourselves, we constantly doubt, we ask everybody else for their opinion versus tuning into our own knowledge and our own wisdom, right? We don't trust that everything is going to be okay. We get anxious and nervous. We're always worried about the future. We focus on uncertainty. We go into scarcity mindset. We start, focusing on all the things that could go wrong. And that's what happens when that wisdom spiritual body is out of whack. I'll go into the bliss body next, lastly. So the last and final layer of your body is your bliss body. I call it your heart center. I call it the part of you. I call it your soul center, your heart center, your heart calling. It's your bliss. It's the part of you that is connected to what brings you joy, happiness. It's the part of you that knows how to just be present and just loves the now. Mm-hmm. When your bliss body is well taken care of and tended to, you are able to find joy and optimism no matter what circumstance, no matter where you are in your journey, right? Like a lot of times people are very conditional. They're like, oh, well, I'll be happy when. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm in a good mood because I just got a raise, or I'm happy because I just found out that X, Y, and Z is going my way, right? But the bliss body says, no, you have a bliss center in you, and there's a part of you that knows how to make yourself happy now, wherever you are in your life. Even when there's death in the family, even when there's crisis in your business, you can still find ways to tap to joy. You can still find ways to find that moment of bliss and to find that presence no matter where you are. And when your bliss body is healthy and in balance, you go seek that regularly. You know how important it is for you. So even if you are in the middle of, a critical crisis phase of your life, like, to like pause and just smell the roses and have a moment with your children and laugh, or, go outside for a walk and smile at a stranger and enjoy a beautiful sunset. And you can find those moments of beauty, peace, harmony, and joy, no matter what. When that bliss body is out of whack, you just cannot find the silver lining. You just can't find that ray of light no matter what. Like, you can't find gratitude. You constantly focus on scarcity, and you're just unable to truly trust that this moment of your life is perfect exactly as it is, even if it may not be going exactly the way that you envisioned it. Right. And so, yeah, people with a strong connection to their bliss body is able to find those moments of joy, no matter what is happening. And they're able to also find gratitude, no matter what's happening in their life as well.
I thank you so much for coming to talk with us. There's so much good stuff here. And one of the things I really appreciate about the work that you've shared with me is that this is accessible, actionable, transformative information. It's not esoteric. We can, if you're willing to bring your attention and your time to this, change happens. And I really appreciate that perspective. Lillian, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Karen. I appreciate all your wonderful questions.
Thank you. That is Lillian So. Her new book is So Empowered. Discover the 5 layers of your body to take control of your life. You can find out more about Lillian and her work, and there's so much more here than what we covered at meetlillianso.com. That's MEETLILLIANSO.com. Meetlillianso.com. You can find her on YouTube, find her on Instagram, find her all over the place. You can also check out SoEmpoweredBook.com. And you're always welcome at KarenHager.com. That's a great place to find out about upcoming classes and events. And if you want to connect voice to voice, if you're looking for some compassionate, no-nonsense intuitive guidance, I would be happy to connect with you for a private session. All the details are at KarenHager.com. Please do follow Fog City Psychic on Instagram and Facebook. See what's happening with Maisie, the amazing new puppy who's here. Take a look at my jigsaw puzzles and my yarn. And yeah, there's radio stuff and intuitive stuff too. But right now it's puppy all the time. And see what happens when you click the message button in our new home at anchor.fm/out of the fog. I'd love to hear your voice messages, and I'd love to get feedback or questions as I put together the next listener mailbag episode that'll air in the next few weeks. Thank you for listening today. Together we are spreading a little more light in the world, and a little more light is always a good thing. Until next time, I'm wishing you peace.